So hey, this is Chris at Art Secret Studio, and someone has brought something up about the layering of transparent colors and the opaque colors and what happens when you do it, and should you always do it? So what happens is when you're just using transparent colors and you're layering and you make these marks with transparent colors and you have these variety of different kind of marks that you're making, and you're just using transparent colors, and then one day you decide, okay, I really love this. I love the composition. I've made my marks. I've softened. I've fanned. I've gotten rid of lines. I've softened lines. I've left areas I like. I've gotten rid of other marks. I broke it up. I left it. I broke it up. You know, anything I don't like is gone. It's funny how I keep leaving that mark. Then I start playing with my opaque color. And as I put my opaque color down, all of a sudden the opaque color is in front of the transparent color. Okay? So as I do that, it makes it come forward, but it gives it a depth. So there's two sentences that go on. A transparent color, like burnt sienna, when you put burnt sienna down over a white canvas, it can be bright and beautiful. When you put sap green down as a transparent color, it can be bright and beautiful, and it comes forward. But when I take these grays and I keep layering my grays as a transparent color, they tend to recede and the opaques come forward. So a transparent color can come forward and recede. Does that make sense? No. Okay, let me reword it. The intensity you can make with a transparent color comes forward. Clean, vibrant color comes forward more than anything. I mean, it is equal to contrast and definitely more superior to texture. But the cleaner, the more vibrant my color. This is the river in this scene. Okay? And I'm going to take transparent color and I'm making the river beautiful. And then as it goes farther away, I'm going to make it less beautiful. And then farther away, I'm going to soften the edges so you don't see it. And even make it smaller. Here's my river. And maybe there's water in the river and it's blue. So I can take some blue, beautiful water in there as well as the green. And then farther away, it gets grayer and softer. So do we all agree that bright color comes forward and grayer reds recede? Are we good with that? Lori? So a transparent color can come forward if it's intense. So it's not the transparency that's coming forward, it's the intensity of the color and the vibrancy of that chroma. Okay, but when I paint your landscape and I'm taking my brown color, sometimes I might start my transparent color not as bright as areas closer to me, where I might use the burnt sienna, which is prettier than the burnt umber. So in the foreground, I could use burnt sienna to make it come forward. And farther away, I thin my color out and make it grayer and softer. So quite often in a painting closer to me, I'm using the brighter, intense transparent colors. And where I don't want to look, I've lowered the intensity of that transparent color. Mixing ultramarine blue, burnt sienna are both transparent. So we're good with that.
I understand on that part. I think mine is more of the decision making on your story of like, what if you really don't want to draw attention there? It is calm and peaceful, and maybe we don't want to use the transparent.
Yeah, so Lori's sentence is, well, how do I decide when I don't want to bring attention to an area? Then I think you're looking at Italian Renaissance and Baroque. You know, the example all week. That the example is Italian Renaissance, we make it one value for that whole wall, no brush strokes, no texture. It can be transparent, just not with a void of, it cannot have a variety of mark making. And like if you look at Sargent's Gothic interior, it's yellow ochre. The whole thing's yellow ochre as a wash stained wall. It's not even ugly, but it's all one value. There's not variety going on within that area. Okay. The other way to make me not look there, because the problem is when I start to take these whites and opaque colors and I put them over it, all of a sudden they come forward and the transparent colors recede because it is closer to you. It's physically sitting on top, especially if it dried. So that's busy and that will attract attention. So therefore, is that the area I just want to make it opaque and do this so you don't look there? Or do I just make it a transparent color that's one value without anything going on? No one's going to look there either. And I think you have to say, well, is that the color I want? Am I able to get that color by being transparent, or do I need to add white to make it one value to make that color? I think that might be an easier answer than, well, do I use transparent or opaque to make it flat? I don't think there's an answer to that. I think your eye has to say, I'm not happy with that color, and I can't make that color. Or maybe adding white is an ugly color, and I don't want that ugliness, and I'm going to just keep it as a thin wash with transparent colors trying to make that color. I think that becomes way too subjective, and you're guessing and you're trying to figure out which one looks best, and you go with that. But do keep in mind, when you layer textured marks and you let it dry, and then you add medium to that, and you layer texture marks over that and you let it dry, and you add layered texture marks over that, are you so in love with your mark making and not your story? But there is a place for those, but maybe not every painting. Oh, Lucretia, there's probably 1,000 reasons for that. You know, Sorolla at the beach. You know, the sun is moving, the waves are crashing, the beauty of the day, the people are beautiful, their clothing is beautiful, and your mark making could have my eye jumping from place to place. Mary Cassatt at the Smithsonian National Portrait Gallery upstairs is a beautiful example of the brushstrokes everywhere, my eye just going everywhere, and absolutely loving it. Mary White is brilliant. Mary White is varying her texture and her mark in the most powerful areas of the painting, and it's constantly changing, and it's beautifully executed. But the closer you get to Mary White, she's still varying, even in the marks that have no contrast, no texture, and she doesn't want you to look there, and they're bringing up no attention at all. She's still varying those textures and those marks everywhere throughout the painting. Every mark she makes, she is varying, cross-hatching, fanning, smearing, rubbing. The mark is changing every quarter of an inch, every eighth of an inch, every half an inch. Even the ones don't matter. Now you're back to Sargent and the Capri boat, where I said he's figure ground lighter and darker than the background. Even on the boat that didn't matter, she did it on every mark in the painting. I thought that was a little powerful. That's what I picked up last time we saw the show. I consider her artist without peer. So the minute you start playing with an opaque color, you got to add medium. Doesn't have to be full strength, but you got to, once you thin it out, no, if you paint with opaque color, you don't have to add medium. If you thin it to make those runny marks, then you need to add something to it. And I just find that going immediately then to glaze or to Galkid or oleo gel is just so much safer. but we don't have real answers. So this is subject to change. I don't know if we can trust these companies. You know, is Natural Pigments going to tell me only what sells his product, or is gambling going to tell me something that's not true so I don't spread the word of not to use his product? Right? I don't know who to talk to about that. The curator at the Smithsonian would be good. I've already talked to him about lighting. I could call back.